Good evening. Promised you I'd be back. There were so many of you on that last 49ers training camp recap with so many questions, and I just had so much stuff to talk about. Then at the end, I'm like, oh, God, I have to go take care of some stuff. I have to go eat a burrito. I had to get dinner, and I said I'd be back for a Q&A. And, the traffic's just off the charts. People are excited. Have to do the people a service, and I'd sit down and answer some 49ers questions and just let this go wherever it might go as far as questions and answers go. It's 9:17 p.m. on the West Coast, so hopefully we got some hardcore people listening on the East Coast past midnight. Hell, maybe we even have some people over in Europe right now watching early in the morning. It's 9 hours ahead of the Pacific Coast. Central Europe is, so it's 6 a.m. over there right now. So good morning to all my fellow Czech viewers in Prague. I'm sure there's at least 2 of you, maybe 3 of you, hopefully at some point, maybe a little bit more than that. But I'm sure there's some viewers in Munich. I heard the tickets for that Seahawks game in Munich. I think it's the Seahawks against Tampa Bay. Aren't they going for like $1,000 a pop? Aren't they going for NFC Championship game at SoFi Stadium type prices? So obviously a lot of demand out there in Europe, and it's morning in that time zone. So 49ers fans in Europe, say hello. I'll put your comment on the screen if you're out in Europe right now. I think that'd be really cool. Here we have a guy on the East Coast, 12:17 a.m. on the East Coast, now 12:18 a.m. So we've moved into the future here by a minute. Obviously, as you're walking in, hit that like button. We're going to get to a lot of these questions. We have some respect for the spreadsheet from Thomas. How do you pronounce your name? Latrell. Since you gave the spreadsheet some respect, the spreadsheet will make an appearance right on screen. That's this year's spreadsheet tracking all the completions, attempts, and interceptions, along with some notes from 49ers quarterbacks. Here's the notes. Last year's spreadsheet was obviously much more robust because we logged it throughout the entirety of training camp. This is last year's spreadsheet. Garoppolo, Lance ended up being really predictive of what the 49ers were going to do, where Lance's weaknesses were. But that's last year's spreadsheet. This is this year's spreadsheet. And if you want to take a look at this year's spreadsheet, if you want to keep track of how the 49ers quarterbacks are doing in camp, you can go ahead and check out the link. I put it there for you in the chat section. So hopefully a lot of you can join. But boy, Nate Sudfeld, he's 20 of 22 right now. 91% completion rate for Nate Sudfeld through 2 practices in shorts without pads. Even, I think Nate Sudfeld wears sweatpants, even though it's 80 degrees out there. So, Nate Sudfeld, that guy always breaking the mold. They're going against the grain. Good dude. Spoke to us today in the media in that auditorium over at Levi Stadium. So thank you, Thomas. That's all good stuff. I'm going to start getting to some of these questions. Some water that I got with my burrito. I'm all fueled up. Don't want to stay all too long, but why don't we build up a little bit of a follower count here for this 49ers Q&A. Really get it over 100 quick, at least. I think we had like 350 concurrence or something on the one before, which was fun. So everybody hit that subscribe button for the channel and also subscribe to The Athletic. I usually pin up a story onto the comment section. So your support there is appreciated. All right, let's talk. I'm going to go rapid fire through some of these questions. I gave him a little bit of time to build up, and now we go. So I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to go to Mike's question first. When do you expect Debo's contract to be completed? Oh, that's a great question because DK Metcalf just signed his deal with the Seattle Seahawks. What was it, $72 million over 3 years? Comes out to $24 million per year. Jeff Howe, our Athletic National writer, was actually in Santa Clara today. I watched practice with him. Anytime the national writer comes in, he wants to low down on the details of the team that he's visiting. Jeff was in Denver yesterday. He's already flown out. He's in Orange County. He's going to watch the Rams in Irvine tomorrow. Well, we're watching practice. Then he got to go talk to John Lynch. His article is out. It's up on The Athletic. And John Lynch's quote, was a really good one. John Lynch's quote said, thankfully all these other receivers have already signed, and that now includes DK Metcalf. So at the end of the day, the gist of the parameters are as set as they can be for Deebo Samuel, right? This is all Christian Kirk's fault. Christian Kirk signed for 17 or 18 million per year, and he's Christian freaking Kirk. So that set this whole receiver market into hyperdrive, right? Into hyperspace, I guess I should say. They made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs this offseason. It was crazy. We saw receiver after receiver signing shattering kinds of money, signing for shattering types of contracts. And Tyreek Hill topped the list, but even A.J. Brown, who was represented by the same agent as Deebo Samuel and DK Metcalf, was traded after that whole brouhaha in Tennessee after he deleted his social media pages. And A.J. Brown signed a new contract worth $25 million per year with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, now DK Metcalf, only 3 years. That's $24 million per year with the Seattle Seahawks. The only receiver left to sign now, Hollywood Brown, too. He was represented by Tory Dandy, which is Deebo Samuel's agent. The only receiver left to sign who wants a contract this offseason, and now it's not the offseason anymore since it's already training camp, is Deebo Samuel. And John Lynch said, this is tricky because he's got the whole versatility going. This is a unique situation with Deebo Samuel, but we have to figure out a way to make it work. And good news for the 49ers is that every single parameter that can be preset has now been preset because Deebo Samuel is the last remaining receiver to be signed. We know what A.J. Brown's contract looks like. We know what DK Metcalf's contract looks like. Those two had been joined at the hip with Deebo Samuel entering this offseason as receivers who had been drafted in 2019 and were looking for extensions this offseason, represented by the same exact agent. It's no surprise that all three of these receivers made some noise, made a stink about their rookie contracts this offseason. A.J. Brown scrubbed his social media, might have requested a trade behind the scenes, but we didn't hear about it. DK Metcalf obviously made a stink in Seattle. Then he started to hold in here during training camp. But he made it very clear that he wanted a new contract. And Deebo Samuel actually formally requested a trade from the 49ers, although that's still since thawed out. He's obviously talking again. The two sides have re-engaged. He's at the 49ers facility. He isn't practicing yet. And the tactics have been similar with Deebo Samuel, if not the same, as Tory Dandy's other clients. So Dandy's other clients have ultimately gotten paid at about $24 and $25 million per year for DK Metcalf and for A.J. Brown. And now we see what Deebo Samuel will get. And when you talk about parameters, this is what I tweeted today. I'm going to just read off my tweet because I think that I worded it better when I was writing it a little bit earlier. This was right after Metcalf signed his deal. I think the pressure is now on the 49ers and Samuel to bring in the closer, get something done. Deebo Samuel, with unique versatility, presents an exceptional case. Collecting as many outside parameters as possible has indeed been necessary to draw lines for his deal. So the 49ers have done that. John Lynch at the start of the offseason said, hey, we know that it's going to be hard to sign Deebo Samuel before DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown because Deebo was so unique. We need as many parameters as possible. This is what Lynch said at the Combine. Well, that makes sense. I get it. Deebo is a unique player. He was a top running back and a top wideout last year. So how do you compensate that? Well, there's going to be some guesswork involved, but you do try to get as many outside data points as you can because the receiver market and different contracts are going to work relative to each other. So I continue with my tweet and I say, despite the fact that this contract obviously needs parameters to help it along, all other wide receivers and Tory Dandy clients are now signed. So all possible parameters are in place. Deebo and the 49ers must now close. Parameters can only take parties so far, especially in this unprecedented situation. At some point, you're going to reach a river and there's not a bridge crossing it, and you're going to have to build that bridge yourself. We've reached that point where both Deebo Samuel and the 49ers must suck it up and create new precedent themselves. They have to build that bridge themselves. This was always the logical endpoint. The deadline pressure is now on. And deadline pressure, if it does indeed make diamonds, well, maybe I'll make a contract here for Deebo Samuel. The more time that goes by without Deebo actually practicing, the more time that the 49ers lose with a chance to truly develop Trey Lance. Right now, we see Brandon Ayuk working a lot against Charvarius Ward. Well, I want to see Deebo Samuel also working against Charvarius Ward. Trey Lance wants to see it as well. Deebo's been in meetings, but we need to see Deebo out there on the field for this 49ers team to be operating at full strength. So the deadline pressure is on. The parameters are all there. That's what the DK Metcalf signing means for Deebo Samuel. It means that the spotlight's on the 49ers, on Deebo, on Tory Dandy, Parag, John Lynch. All those guys have got to get it done. Time to bring in the closer. At the end of the day, the definition of a contract that is actually agreed upon is a collaborative effort, right? Both sides give, both sides get. And we're in a position right now where it looks like both sides need to give a little bit more so that the 49ers and Deebo Samuel can get a deal that works for both of them. So anyway, to answer your question, that was a long way around it, but hopefully I added some insight. I expect it to be completed at some point within the next week. I really do. At some point within the next week, I think it'll be done now that we've got DK out of the way. Maybe even this weekend. So we'll see if I'm right. But that's just guesswork. Lynch just said nothing's imminent today to Jeff Howe, but he hopes that really soon something will be. All right, Thomas, does Trey Sermon look ready for a bounce back year? Heard another beat writer say that Ty Davis Price already looks way more decisive. Here's the thing. It's all guesswork with running backs right now, and it will be even when pads come on because the 49ers don't tackle live. They don't bring guys to the ground. And to properly evaluate a running back, especially these physical guys like Ty Davis Price, Trey Sermon, I think, has some physicality, and to see how well they break tackles. Now, we know Davis Price is a good pass protector. He was at LSU. That may ready him for week one action with the 49ers, but they're going to run by committee regardless. Shanahan wants this to be a by committee effort. Shanahan says that Sermon is yoked. He's done everything he possibly can over the course of the offseason, but we won't know if he's ready to truly enter that mix and be the big-time contributor that the 49ers need as part of the committee, I think, until the preseason. If the preseason is generally worthless, but if there's one thing that it's actually, valuable at, it's allowing running backs to shine, because a team like the 49ers, when they're not tackling live to the ground in training camp, you have to actually find out about what these running backs are made of in the preseason. So I'm looking forward to that as far as an evaluation for Trey Sermon. Richard Sherman thinks this secondary can be one of the best in the NFL. I know it's hard to judge without pads, but do you think Ward squared and those guys are up to the task? I love your use of Ward squared. Hey, they've got a great pass rush potentially in front of them. They have maybe the best linebacker core in the league in front of them. Charvarius Ward, if you look at the stats from last season, sticky. And let's go and look at Charvarius Ward's stats from last season. Why don't we? This is in a recent article on The Athletic. I embedded the tweet, so I'm going to put this up on the screen for all of you. This was right before training camp. This is why I think there should be a lot of optimism about the secondary. Charvarius Ward kind of flew under the radar with J.C. Jackson available this offseason. But check this out. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. This is Charvarius Ward in coverage last year. Completion percentage allowed, only 44.8%. Ranked second in the NFL. Average target separation, only 2 yards. That ranked first in the NFL. Tight window rate, 46.3%. Quarterbacks had to fit into a tight window when throwing into Charvarius Ward's coverage. That ranked first in the NFL. Coverage success rate ranked fourth. And then whenever Charvarius Ward was targeted, his expected points per play allowed, -12. That ranked 11th. That's a cumulative number, that -12. So the advanced stats love Charvarius Ward last year. The tape is impressive. He's sticky. Today, he covered the hell out of Jawan Jennings on a deep pass. I think they targeted Charvarius about 5 times today. Might have given up 1 catch, hardly any yards. With that guy in the secondary, the 49ers need a big money corner in the secondary. They have one for the first time since Richard Sherman. They also have 2 other options legitimately on the other side between Emmanuel Mosley and Jason Verrett. And this is before we've even talked about the improvement of Ambry Thomas. So there's real depth on this football team at the cornerback position that they haven't had before. Obviously, safety, a little bit different story. Talanoa Hufanga is going to have to fill in as well as he did today in practice. Had a nice breakup, but Jimmy Ward has been playing at a Pro Bowl level. It's what Richard Sherman himself said today. And, of course, Darquez Denard's got to fill in for K'Wan Williams at that nickelback spot. See how quickly Samuel Womack, the rookie, can develop. So there are some questions, as there always are, but the defense as a whole, talent-wise, this could rival the 2019 unit. It's about staying healthy and finding that cohesive mix defensively, because on paper, in that stockpile, they've got a whole lot of talent. Javon Kinlaw has not been in team drills so far. I would expect that to happen probably, if I had a guess, by Monday. They're ramping him up slowly, just like Mike McGlinchey. But if you need me to answer your question, he looks like a monolith. I mean, that guy is strong. I mean, I've stood next to Javon Kinlaw a couple times here already during training camp, and he's ripped too. Looks like he's in the best shape of his life. They think they discovered what was wrong with the knee. It was actually a torn ACL surgery last year, and he's back ready to go for the 49ers. They're going to ease him into that mix, and we'll see if he can dominate that interior. They really need him to. I think that's a hinge point on this defense. Thank you, 49 Lakers. I really appreciate it. All right. Has Danny Gray or Ray McLeod stood out at all? Danny Gray, I have to say, yes, he scored a deep touchdown today. Now, it was against the third-team defense. It was from Brock Purdy, but that speed was on really good display. So anytime you score an 80-yard touchdown in practice on a bomb, yeah, you've stood out. Ray McLeod, yeah, I mean, I see him there. He's a shifty guy. The thing about Ray McLeod is we know he's going to be returning punts for the 49ers, maybe returning some kicks too. We know he's a big special teams addition. But what a lot of people I don't think realize is that Kyle Shanahan's fully counting on him to be a big-time offensive weapon. He might use him as a gadget kind of guy, but we know Kyle Shanahan loves to get creative. So I would anticipate that we won't see Kyle put a whole lot of how he'll use Ray McLeod on tape during open training camp practices. But once week one comes, don't be surprised if Ray McLeod surprises a lot of people who don't watch this channel, right? Who aren't on the inside. So yes, I do think they've stood out, but in different ways. Danny Gray with his speed, Ray McLeod with the potential usage that Kyle Shanahan will have from him. What am I seeing from Talanoa Hufanga? I'm seeing a highly instinctive player. Today, D'Amico Ryan said that he challenged Hufanga this offseason to communicate more, to be a little bit louder, to not just rely on his instincts, to be part of that cohesive unit in the secondary. And apparently, Hufanga has risen to the challenge because it looks like he's got a stranglehold on that safety starting spot opposite Jimmy Ward. Today, he had the nice breakup against Trey Lance, who's trying to throw to Brandon Ayuk on a little comeback pattern. Hufanga bolts down from center field, bats that pass away, kind of goes over the shoulder of Brandon Ayuk to bat that pass away. Perfect timing, good coverage. He looks at home in that secondary. That's exactly what you want to see. You want to see an instinctive player who's not a superb athlete. I mean, the guy ran a slow 40 in college, 4.6. But he can make up for that. You can make up with 4.6 speed with great anticipation, film study. You just got to be a dog out there. And I think Talanoa Hufanga has the potential of just that. I think it's remarkable that he, developed so much from the 6th round in his rookie year, right? 6th round pick. He developed so much over the course of his rookie season to where the 49ers didn't even bother feeling like they needed to re-sign Jaquiski Tart, and that he looks like a ready-made veteran on the second day of training camp practice that's established in that starting group in the secondary with some vets who've been around for quite some time. Jimmy Ward is the longest tenured 49er. He's been around for a while. Emmanuel Mosley has been with this team since when? 2019. And Charvarius Ward's on his second contract now. So those are the starting guys in the secondary, plus Darquez Dennard, who's been around the league for a while too, former first-round pick years ago. So the secondary, those are grizzled veterans in that secondary. And Hufanga, to me, demeanor-wise, looks all the part. He's put on some muscle too, put on some hair. Anytime you hang around Troy Polamalu, you put on the hair. So Talanoa Hufanga looking good for the 49ers so far. Nice pass breakup today. Christopher Byers is watching from Alaska. Love that. What time is it in Alaska? It's going to be a little bit earlier than now, right? 9:35 p.m. right now on the West Coast. I wonder if it's like 8:35 in Alaska because you guys are further west. I know that. Maybe even 7:35. Alaska's so big. Biggest state. You know what I learned? There are different bed sizes. I have a California King. We just bought a California King. You can go custom. You can go above that. So the next size up is called the Texas King because Texas has more landmass than California. If you want to get really crazy and, you're 7'5" or whatever, I guess it's an issue for some people, some NBA players, 7-footers. You can get the Alaskan King because Alaska is massive. David, who would you rather have as the backup? I'm guessing you're asking Brock or Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld's going to win that job. Nate Sudfeld, 20 of 22 to open camp. He has $2 million guaranteed. Brock Purdy was the final pick of the draft. I think the 49ers want to carry 3 quarterbacks into the season. You throw him on the practice squad and he develops. I think it's a clear-cut situation right now. Trey 1, Nate 2, Brock Purdy number 3. All right, more questions. What do we got here? How's Spencer Burford looking at right guard? We won't really know until next week because pads aren't on yet. I mean, it's really hard for offensive linemen to protect themselves and operate before the pads come on. So right now it's in shorts. We're going to start really evaluating the trenches when those pads come on. Right now, it's more of a passing league evaluation. So we're talking DBs, we're talking receivers, linebackers, and coverage, that kind of stuff. It is noteworthy, though, that Burford has taken every single first-team rep at right guard. He must have done something right during OTAs. Are they going to release Jimmy if they can't find a trade partner? I would think so by August 30th. But again, that's still over a month away. A lot could still happen in the NFL, and the 49ers aren't going to give him up for nothing before they absolutely have to. Just good business practice from the 49ers at this point, just making the most of the situation, right? So you have him under contract. You don't release him for anything, or you don't release him for nothing. It's a double negative, but it applies in this situation. Yeah, I mean, just to avoid the risk of a team like Seattle picking him up, getting a full training camp with him, and then turning around and starting Jimmy Garoppolo to beat you in week 2. The 49ers play Seattle in week 2. So, hold on to him now so nobody can just scoop him up and then use him against you. If only for that, it's worth it to hold on to him, because it's not costing the 49ers any money until August 30th. If and when Jimmy Garoppolo makes the 49ers 53-man roster, he will be fully guaranteed the $24.2 million base salary he has on his contract for the 2022 season. But until then, he's not guaranteed that money. So there's no loss for the 49ers in keeping him as long as he stays, it's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind situation right now. The media might like asking about it. Social media is talking about it. You go out into the practice field and Jimmy Garoppolo is not there. It's Trey Lance, Nate Sudfeld, and Brock Purdy. Okay, looking through some more. What do I think Debo could be getting? I think a little bit more than $25 million per year, maybe 26 APY. It's the fully guaranteed money that I'm super interested in. AJ Brown got $40 million of it. We're still waiting on the DK numbers. I know he got a $30 million signing bonus, which is a record for wideouts. Maybe the 49ers do something like that to spread out the cap hit. That's how you work with the signing bonus. But I'm really not sure as far as the fully guaranteed money goes. That could be one of the sticking points. Some incentives could be sticking points regarding time at running back for Deebo Samuel, because the 49ers could find themselves in a bind again. Guys get hurt at running back. You need to throw Deebo back there. If you're going to pay him a ton of money, he better be ready to do that. So maybe that's something that they're talking about as they try to finalize this contract. Yeah, I do think that Lance is throwing a little tighter ball this year during training camp. Now, remember, the end of camp last year against the Raiders, he broke his finger. He chipped it. So I think that was one reason that we saw some wobbly passes from Trey Lance. I agree with Richard Sherman's comments on the 49ers DBs. I think Richard, he follows me on Twitter. We talk a lot. We went to college together. Sherman and I went to Stanford together. We're the same age. So got a lot of Sherm stories from the glory days back when he was a receiver playing for Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, he was following my Twitter today. I was talking about the secondary, and then Sherm comes on and he adds on to it with the secondary. So he's paying attention. He's doing his homework. He's going to be doing the Amazon studio show, but the studio is going to go from game to game on Thursday nights. He's based in Seattle, but he's going to be traveling the country. It's going to be good to see him on TV this year. He likes the 49ers secondary, and why wouldn't he? He did such a good job kind of helping set the culture in that room when he was at the 49ers for those 3 seasons. And now, a lot of new players, obviously, but I think that Richard Sherman has every right to be proud of that group. And I think his opinion means a lot in this situation, because I think it's correct in this situation. Think Debo will get 26, 27 million in 4 years? Yeah, that's very possible. Debo's a lot older than DK Metcalf, who's going to be 27 when his contract is up in 3 years. Debo is going to be 27 years old in January when his birthday hits. So, it's just different dynamics than the DK deal in that way, age-wise, different style of player. But I think the money, because of the parameters I talked about, might end up in the same ballpark. What are your thoughts on Lance scrambling in practice when receivers aren't open? I notice at camp he tends to do that. It seems like a waste of a rep since the defense isn't allowed to touch him. Well, he's got to do what he's going to try to do in a game at a certain point, though, so I don't think it's a waste of a rep. I hope that he bails if nobody's open and the pocket's collapsing in a game. He's got to get that muscle memory down. So, you have to simulate stuff as close as you can to a game without getting your quarterback killed, is my thought for that question. David, I think Charles Omenihu could be a sleeper this season. Who do you think is flying under the radar that could make an impact? Jason Poe, maybe. He's a rookie, but maybe that won't be till a little bit further on. These are always interesting questions. Who's flying? Charles Omenihu is a good one. Let's just talk about him, because that would be my pick. He surged toward the end of the last season. This guy is built 6'5", 270 to 280, but he's also athletic, and they've been rushing him inside a lot. here in training camp. And that's one thing I noticed back in OTAs. He was lined up rushing inside on some of these passing downs. You know who did that last year to great success? This is a Chris Kacerek special. Arden Key. Arden Key revitalized his career because Chris Kacerek had him in pass situations rushing against guards. And he was so athletic coming from that end position, rushing against guards, that he was winning. And he had, 6.5 sacks last year? So Charles Omenihu rushing it on the inside, that could be another Arden Key kind of burst. And Omenihu has had better pressure rates than Arden Key ever had in his career. They haven't quite turned into sacks yet, but the pressure rates, even with the Texans, were really good for Charles Omenihu. Then he was off the charts during the late part of last season with the 49ers, over 11%. It's like Bosan, like Bosa, but an adjective, Bosan, B-O-S-A-N. Nick Bosa is like an 11 to 12% guy. Pressure rate for Omenihu was the same week 14 onward. So put this guy inside, have Bosa take up the double team, have Omenihu working against the guard in some of these NASCAR packages. I think he could produce this year. I think some of those pressures could start turning into full-on sacks. So good pick, Collie. I like that. That is an under-radar player that could get some of this stuff done for the 49ers up front. They win with strength and numbers along the defensive line. This is not true. I was not talking crap about Lance. Do you know who the first person... we put video, we put music on all the videos because YouTube copyrights them if it hears copyrighted music, which comes over the 49ers loudspeakers. So I've never said anything negative about Lance in any of the videos. So please do not come on my channel and make stuff up. That is completely unnecessary. The first person in the media that recommended that the 49ers should draft Trey Lance way before they made the trade, me right here. So I've been very big on the Trey Lance train this whole time. So please do not make such stuff up. That's absolutely ridiculous. How are the guards looking in camp? Again, we need pads to come on. We absolutely need pads to come on, because if the pads don't come on, then the offensive linemen can't protect themselves. And if the offensive linemen can't protect themselves, they're at a huge disadvantage. So that will happen on Monday. I think Trey Sermon's stronger. Kyle Shanahan said that he's yoked, so 10 pounds more muscle. It's possible. I think he's probably around 215, which would make him 5-6 pounds heavier than last year. But I could confirm that for you moving forward. Let's see. Scroll down here a little bit further. I'm going to go down to the bottom questions. See if you guys have anything good to say. Does Debo need to wait for Jimmy's cap hit to free up before he gets his extension? No, he doesn't. They still have a few million left. They can extend Debo without raising the cap hit all too much. This might be something we can illustrate with the before and after of DK Metcalf's deal. I'm still waiting for the after to see the cap hit, but I don't think it will raise all too much. I think all these teams are trying to backload. For example, last year, Fred Warner's cap hit stayed the same before and after the extension. So they likely won't need much more money. They could reshuffle other things if they need to, because I think that it's worth it to keep Jimmy until the deadline. And I think the 49ers feel the same way. All right, let's look down here. What are you guys saying? I'm taking a little bit of break from talking. I've talked a lot on these. Everybody sub to the channel if you're just coming in. That was good food today. That was a good burrito. I had it down here in San Mateo. Yeah, hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 16K. Got a nice little crowd in here, which is fun. Let's see. Yeah, I was a big Lance guy from the very start. That was, I don't like cheer on players. What I do, I just try to report things accurately as I see them, right? So you got a guy that gets a lot of hate. Yeah, a guy that's not appreciated enough. You have a position, I'm trying to illuminate. These are men working an extremely difficult profession. I'm playing football is hard, right? And, you go in the locker room, you build respectful relationships with people, and you cover the way that this game is played to, inform the people who are interested in the game of football. So it's not cheering anybody on. It's not you criticize where criticism warranted, and you present information in a way that contextualizes the stuff that's happening on the field, right? So throughout the years of Jimmy Garoppolo playing, I think that we did that for the 49ers, at least. I think we did that well here. We did that to the best of our ability on The Athletic and on this YouTube channel. And, then you recognize the injury issues with Jimmy Garoppolo and the availability issues every year. And you also recognize Kyle Shanahan's vision and his offense, because I do my best to watch the tape, to study what the 49ers may or may not want moving into the future. And I also study the salary cap. And I combine all these things. It's a very political thing, right? Because the head coach and a general manager have to think of so many competing interests, financial interests, roster availability interests, the X's and O's that Kyle Shanahan focuses on. And obviously managing, players' emotions and, team cohesion. And when you consider the totality of everything, which is what I think good reporting will do, well, then you talk about a guy like Trey Lance. And that's why in January 2021, I'm watching college tape and I see North Dakota State. I see a guy running the pro style offense. I see a guy who could run, who could bring mobility. Part of the equation is watching the evolving nature of the NFL. You peg Trey Lance at that time. Ever since then, have I been a Trey Lance guy? I mean, if that's the terminology you want to use, yes. I'm a reporter. I'm not a fan of Trey Lance, but I pegged Trey Lance at that moment in January 2021 as somebody that would fit with Kyle Shanahan and the system that I've spent, this is now my 6th year covering this 49ers system. So it's quite frankly, it's disappointing that, people would talk about, oh, he hasn't been a Trey Lance guy until now. It's like, no, I was the first Trey Lance guy, like talking about this in January 2021. The receipts are right there. You could search it. I could put it up on the screen right now. So it's not a matter of, lobbying for players or cheering for players or whatever. It's just a matter of communicating reality with the proper context. And I think the 49ers had a good quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo. They technically still have him on the roster, and they're going for a transcendent ceiling at a cheaper price in the short term with Trey Lance to fit in with the evolving nature of the league and Kyle Shanahan. And I eat this stuff up. I love football. I love the schematics. I love, the finances and, the planning that's going into all this. Will it succeed for the 49ers? I honestly don't know. I think it will, just based on my opinion and how the track record Kyle Shanahan has, the track record and development and what Trey Lance seems to be made of. But we're all here for the ride. We're all here. We just got to buckle up and enjoy what's going to happen this season. So anyway, went off on a little bit of tangent there, but this is a good point right here. It's a polarizing topic. If you're pro Jimmy, you're automatically anti Lance in those trolls' eyes. Yes, that's because trolls do not know how to think critically. They don't know how to think nuance. It's not one or the other. The 49ers made it clear it wasn't one or the other when they had both of these quarterbacks on the roster last year. And Trey Lance can't say enough nice things about Jimmy Garoppolo. And last year, they were even trying to mix and match them. It didn't end up working out in the games because Kyle Shanahan has his own particular play calling rhythm, and that's fine. But it was Jimmy and Trey last year. It wasn't Jimmy or Trey. It was Jimmy and Trey, with the plan to hand the torch over to Trey Lance moving here into the 2022 season. I clicked on the wrong one there. Did you notice if Trey has learned how to slide? Well, the quarterbacks can't be hit right now. So no, he hasn't slid yet in practice. This is something that won't come until the preseason or probably the regular season. So I can't answer that question at this point. Who's going to be second in sacks behind Nick Bosa? If it's Drake Jackson, the 49ers are making the Super Bowl. Let's put it that way. Kamoko Toure had 5.5 last year with Indy. Maybe he racks some of them up. It's going to be Bosa, and then it's by strength in numbers beyond that. That's all I know. That's a good question. I don't know. You guys can put your bets down in the chat section, and we could go for it from there. Hyder. Remember Hyder had 8.5 in 2020 when Bosa was hurt? Maybe. See, it's amazing. You could pick like 5 guys and probably have the same odds. That's how deep the 49ers are on the defensive line. It's not going to be D Ford. They just released him. Yeah, 2 people said Hyder. Do you honestly see transcendent talent with Trey? What markers are you looking for when you watch him practice and play? Okay, I see potentially transcendent talent with Trey. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know what your terminology is here. It's got to be developed. A lot of things have to go right for it to get to that point. But first, he's a physical tank, right? He's 6'4", 220. You can't teach that. You see Brock Purdy, who's not 6'4", 220. You're not going to teach him to be 6'4" and 220. So Trey Lance is able to, he has the physical strength to make a lot of these off-platform throws without his feet dug into the ground that, not just anybody can make. And the way that the ball does zip out of his hand on some of these throws is indeed impressive. 2, the mental makeup. I've watched a lot of Trey Lance tape throughout his time at North Dakota State. There was that full 2019 season, and you put on the all 22, and this is something that Kyle Shanahan vehemently agrees with, is that Trey Lance he conceptually understood where to go with the football within the context of a pro-style offense. You combine the physical tools, which are God-given, with the cerebral tools might be God-given too, but he works at it. He's got that sponge-like work ethic based on anybody you talk to. You combine those things and you have the ingredients to cook a really nice meal. Now, will that meal end up good? Or, if we're going to compare this to food, even sometimes when you have really nice ingredients, it doesn't turn out all that well because you got to prepare it really well in the kitchen. So right now, the 49ers are preparing Trey Lance. Whether or not he reaches the transcendent level will depend on a whole lot of factors. One of the factors was bringing him along at the right speed. If they would have thrust him into the fire too soon last season, could have all gone wrong really early, right? They didn't do that. They had Jimmy Garoppolo. They had good tutelage from Garoppolo, from Nate Sudfeld, who taught Trey Lance about the league. So the 49ers have been trying to create an environment in which they prepare this meal as delicately as possible. But at some point, you get his feet wet for a year, but at some point he's got to play. He's got to get those reps, and you don't want to wait too long for them to get those reps. So now they're going to do that this year. And the question is, how effective is it going to be? Because the ingredients are certainly there. So I see potential transcendent talent, absolutely. And I think Kyle Shanahan, after consulting with Mike Shanahan, who coached Steve Young, who coached John Elway, you saw transcendent talent of those players as well. They realized it. So now we get to see if Trey Lance will realize it. And guess what? Probably not going to happen in 1 year. It didn't happen for Steve Young in that short amount of time. John Elway happened maybe a little bit sooner, but he didn't win a Super Bowl to the very end of his career. So this kind of stuff takes time, and that's why the entire roster is important to study. And I think the 49ers have a really good roster around Trey Lance to help usher him along in this first season. You don't think that Trey Lance will be a Steve Young player? That's a fair take. Steve Young is one of the greatest of all time, Hall of Famer, led all of NFL history in passer rating when he retired. I think he still is the era adjusted passer rating leader of all time. So yeah, I don't think anybody's saying Trey Lance is going to be Steve Young. I think that we're talking about a type. Steve Young was this wild running quarterback with Tampa Bay, really athletic, but he just improvised all the time. And Bill Walsh, they literally had to tie his feet together in the pocket, and they made him a precision pocket passer. So that way he was a precise pocket passer who, by the way, delivered his best years under Mike Shanahan, offensive coordinator, who could also run. John Elway, precise pocket passer who could also run. Mobility was the wild card that did great things for both Young and Elway. Mike Shanahan worked with both of those guys. I think they believe that Trey Lance has the same material to work with to create similar dual threat capabilities. That's all I'm saying. I'm not coronating him. I'm not inducting him into Canton right now. I'm talking about the physical skill set combined with the cerebral skill set, combined with the coaching and the environment. I think that the ingredients are in place to do something special. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. And I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I'm not going to go out here with a hot take. It's always going to be nuanced, and it's hard. I get it. In the trolling world of online media, it's hard to understand and get clicks with nuance. But I think we're doing plenty fine with the viewers on this show when we go the hard way. We don't take the easy path. We go with nuance. which DB, I love it. Which DB do you see taking another step toward growth now that there's some added depth at the position? Hopefully for the 49ers, Ambry Thomas. I mean, he took some big steps late last season. I think he's gotten a little bit stronger. On top of Ambry, you'd hope Deommodore Lenoir can take another step. You want Samuel Womack to take a good first step this year, the rookie nickel back, because you got to get that nickel position figured out for the longer term. So important in this division. Cooper Kupp running around. So, yeah, maybe some of those guys. Talanoa Hufanga, too. I mean, he will be his own guy. I'm not saying, but we have historical comparisons for everything. Steve Young was a great running quarterback who turned into a pocket passer. If Trey Lance can emulate the basic structure of that, he's going to be off to a really good start. So there's nothing wrong with mentioning Steve Young. Kyle Shanahan said that he hopes that Trey talks with Steve Young as much as he possibly can. And, Steve Young's flattered by that. Kyle said that Steve is one of his favorite people, and he hopes he talks to Trey as much as he possibly can. There's nothing wrong with trying to get some osmosis from Steve Young down to Trey Lance, that's for sure. This is objectively the deepest roster the 49ers have had with Kyle Shanahan. Does the practice squad rule change? Do the practice squad rules changes in the past few years support a depth roster build? Yeah, I mean, you got 16 on the practice squad, so it's expanded. You can call guys up, so you can stash certain guys. It definitely helps with a deeper roster than before. That was a COVID era kind of thing, and yeah, this might be the deepest roster that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have fielded. So let's have fun covering this team this year. Everybody subscribe to The Athletic. Make sure you do that. Obviously, subscribe to this channel. I sat here and did another 42-minute show for you on top of the one before. And I'm tired. And I wake up early to swim in the bay. So I'm going to go swim in the bay right now. Not right now. This is how tired I am. I'm going to swim in the bay in a few hours. I'm going to go sleep right now. And I hope that you enjoyed the show. So give me a like, give me a subscribe, and we'll talk to everybody soon. There's a whole lot more good content coming out. So thank you to everybody. Everybody have a great Thursday night. Bye now.